her own, booked a room for 2.5 hours twice a week, took her team down there, in addition to the other rehearsal time that they used at the high school with their advisors. She made sure that all the people on the team really spent all of that extra time. And if I'm not mistaken, came in first place.
Yeah.
So it really is a wonderful accomplishment. I was just blown away.
And can I just add, I'm going to go there. So the young lady talked about the different schools that are in the competition. We outshined Glen Cove and Roslyn. So, and these are schools that have had these programs in place for a very long time. And so
yeah.
for our students to come in 2 years, they started in third place, which was remarkable for a first-year group, and then to come in and blow these people away, first place.
Yep.
I'm going to go.
Yeah, and the commitment, that was what
Yes.
just impressed me, that kind of commitment and drive to, we're going to do this, and then to actually put it in place.
So this is the local competition, and they're looking
Yes.
to compete in the state
And the
competition,
statewide,
and
yeah.
they're
Just wonderful.
well on their way.
And just very quickly, I was at the Nassau County Schools Superintendents Association has a legislative committee, and I was at that, and on a more local level, the conversation was very much about, you probably have seen it in the paper, about pilots, and about the pilots that are being granted, and very often to the detriment of school districts. And part of the legislative activity on the part of this group is going to be to ask that school districts have meaningful notice of when pilots are going to be considered, and also at least have an opportunity to be at the table and to voice concerns or ask questions before pilots are actually granted. And let's see, I think that's, yeah, I've talked enough. Okay.
So I'm the liaison to the Baldwin Educational Assembly, but there was no executive committee meeting this month, so I don't have anything to report from there. But in the last month, I was invited to a program at LIU Post that was talking about, it was starting a conversation about racial inequities and inequalities in public school districts. And I think there were about 50 or 60 people. That was an interesting conversation, a beginning of this discussion. And there were representatives from school districts across the island, some, with diverse populations and some not. And so it was an interesting conversation. What came out of that, I think, was they were starting this discussion about forming a think tank to, instead of us all sitting in a room going, we're, inequalities in funding, what to do about it. Sort of getting the proposal, like Dr. Cammie said, and maybe going to the state or doing something with it. So, so I look forward to seeing what comes out of that. I also had the opportunity to go up to Rochester to see the All-State concerts. And for those who have, most of you have been here, I recognize your faces. You've seen me ramble on about the music program. This was at a whole other level up there. And the kids themselves, the concerts were just so incredible. And the kids, the reaction from the kids who participated, it was like, they literally said this was like life-changing for them. And a number of them that I know are looking to pursue music as a career when they leave us here. So I just think it was great. It's a great opportunity for them. They represented us incredibly well up there. If you hadn't guessed, I was at Shrek. I think we were all at Shrek.
Yes.
We all saw
All
Shrek.
saw Shrek.
Everybody saw Shrek. It was great. The entire production, from the pit to the crew, to the students on stage, and the teachers who prepared, and the teachers and the non-teachers, the director and the choreographer, did an incredible job with that production. And sort of piggybacking on this theme of the students taking the initiative to form groups and prepare themselves. Last night was the small ensembles concert. It was the vocal group, and it was outside of school. There wasn't a lot of promotion of it, but these were the small ensembles groups. They're self-directed. They're run by the kids, and these the amount of dedication. I'm not sure that it rivals the
same, yeah.
moot court team, but I
Same
think it
idea.
does. And they just did an incredible job. And you've seen them if you've been at concerts. They, sing the national anthem, or they were at the Realtor breakfast. So it was just an incredible job. And I was realizing at Sweet Adelines, I think it was that group, they have like 6 all-state kids in that one group. And so that's incredible. So, and that was all that I had to report. So, we are going to now, we're opening the floor. This is our first of 2 comment sessions. This comment session is limited to items that were on the agenda for the evening. So if you have questions about agenda items, this is the place to ask them. If they are non-agenda items, we will have a second comment period at the end of the meeting, which, if all goes well, we will move through fairly quickly. If you do have a question about an agenda item, please step up to the microphone, give us your name and your address so we can get back to you if we need to. Each person can speak once during this period for no more than 3 minutes. Direct your questions to me, and I don't think I'm going to have an issue with this audience, but I ask if you have questions, if you have issues you want to raise, please do so respectfully. So with that, we're going to open up the floor to questions, comments.
Okay. My name is Vincent Batchford. Just thank you for showing us about the writers' workshop. I think that that's really cool. My kids are too old for that right now, but considering that those elementary school kids are going to be taking care of me in my old age, I'm very happy to hear about that. Happy to hear about mock trial. I was just curious as to where they go to compete and how often.
I was just going to say, you want
Yeah.
Jackie's here,
Oh.
she could.
Sure, I can answer that.
Mhm.
In the fall, we compete at a local school, the weekly school,
Mhm.
and that's where our competition is held in the fall. That was just held on the 30th. And then starting February or January, end of January, early February, they go to the Nassau County court to compete in the Nassau County mock trial competition, which then goes to state. So it starts as a regional competition.
Mhm.
It's over multiple days and months, and eventually state.
Okay, thank you very much. And there was something else and I just forgot. So I was just curious about that. So congratulations on all of those. And I just wanted to thank the board. I know it's a lot of work. So I have some things to ask about later, but I was just curious about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. No, that's going to be in the second comment period. Seeing no other folks at the mic, we're going to close this first comment period. We're going to move into doing our business here. The Board of Education approves the personnel actions report as amended, addended, for the December 14, 2016 board meeting as detailed in the Friday mailing.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Reed.
Second.
Second by Mrs. O'Hagan. This contains the names of individuals, so we do not discuss this in public. All those in favor? Aye. Board of Education approves the recommendations for services of the Committee on Special Education, Sub-CSE, 504 Committee, and Committee on Preschool Special Education in October and November 2016 as detailed in the Friday mailing.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Reed.
Second.
Second by Mrs. O'Hagan. This contains information pertaining to students, so we do not discuss this in public. All those in favor?
Aye.
Board of Education approves the home tutoring and special education service reports as detailed in the Friday mailing.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. O'Hagan.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Coles. Again, this contains information pertaining to individual students, so we do not discuss this in public. All those in favor?
Aye.
Board of Education accepts with thanks from the Baldwin Foundation for Education for the 2016-17 school year $1,322 for the mini grant program and authorizes a budget increase of $1,322 in expenditures and an increase of $1,322 in revenues as detailed in the Friday mailing. Wait for it. There are 4 grants here in recognition of excellence. For the district office and Dr. Cami, $400. The Miracle Grow Garden, the recipient Miss Billig at the high school, $348. Creating an interactive science classroom, recipient Mrs. Greaves at the middle school for $374. And Musical Mania, recipient Mr. Stolzenberg at Steele School for $200.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Reed,
Second.
second by Mrs. Dreska. Any questions or comments?
Just say thank you very much.
Yes, thank you to the BFE.
Thank you, BFE.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Board of Education accepts with thanks a donation of video equipment, including digital video cameras, batteries, chargers, tripods, and VCRs from Mr. Wayne DeLeon to be used in the television studio at the high school as detailed in the Friday mailing.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. O'Hagan.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Coles. Any questions or comments?
I do. Is Mr. DeLeon in the industry?
He is.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Yeah, that was
That's
a
nice to
lot
have-
of equipment.
it
Yeah, it
was, and
was.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah,
lot of
great
equipment.
stuff. Thank you.
Yeah.
Nothing else? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Board of Education accepts with thanks a donation in the amount of $1,500 from Northrop Grumman for the STEM and Medical Academy as a grant to be used to add an arts component to these programs as detailed in the Friday mailing.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Reed,
Second.
second by Mrs. O'Hagan. Questions or comments? Other than thank you.
Thank you.
Northrop
Thank you.
Grumman.
actually was thinking of something.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Board of Education accepts with thanks a donation in the amount of $1,259.38 from Brookside Builds to make improvements to the playground area at Brookside Elementary School as detailed in the Friday mailing.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Reed,
Second.
second by Mrs. Coles. Any questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes.
So being as the playground is brand new, is this for like ground cover or what is this additional money for?
Want to take that?
Brookside Builds was an organization that came together to raise money for that playground. This is the amount of money they had left after the playground was built, so they're donating the remainder of that. There's a second playground for the kids in the upper grades, and they're asking us to basically hold on to that money for any kind of repairs and things of that nature.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Brookside Builds. Very generous to us. All those in favor? Aye. Board of Education approves the agreement with Safe Health Educators to provide AED and CPR training and a food allergy awareness management workshop for the continuing education program as detailed in the Friday mailing.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Dreska?
Yeah, that was her.
Oh, okay. I thought I heard both.
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Reed. Any questions or
It's been
comments?
quite quiet this evening, yes.
No questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. The Board of Education approves the agreement with Allen Rodo Consultants, Inc. for the period September 1, 2015 through November 20th, 2016. 30th?
Oh,
So
It
moved.
says 20th in
says
the,
20 on the
Oh, yeah.
agenda.
Is it-
November 30th, 2016, to provide a review and audit of the local and long-distance telephone communications services bills as detailed in the Friday mailing.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Reed,
Second.
second by Mrs. Zareska. Any questions or comments? Nope. All those in favor? Aye. Board of Education approves the agreement with New York University School of Medicine Child Study Center to provide evaluation services for the 2016-17 school year as detailed in the Friday mailing.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. O'Hagan, second by Mrs. Dreska. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Board of Education approves a contract with Martin DePorres for one student attending a private residential school for the 2016-17 school year in the amount of $34,855 as detailed in the Friday mailing.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. O'Hagan,
Second.
second by Mrs. Reed. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Board of Education approves a contract with United Cerebral Palsy of Suffolk for one student attending a private residential school for the 2016-17 school year in the amount of $56,054 as detailed in the Friday mailing.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Coles, second by Mrs. O'Hagan. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Board of Education approves contracts for the approved special education programs based upon strategic evaluation, data collection and analysis and reporting, SEDCAR 1 applications, and their corresponding 10-7-15 child count. The per pupil allocation for students placed in a program under Section 619, covering 3 to 5-year-olds, is $431, and for Section 611, 3 to 21-year-olds, is $1,109. Per pupil allocation for students receiving related services only under Section 619 is $144, and for Section 611 is $371, as detailed in the Friday mailing.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Reed,
Second.
second by Mrs. O'Hagan. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Board of Education declares obsolete a General Electric refrigerator number 001342, a Dayton standing fan number 2LY97, and 10 student desks at Meadow School, which are inoperable, unrepairable, and broken per state rules and regulations as detailed in the Friday mailing.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. O'Hagan.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Reed. Any questions or comments? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Board of Education approves the updated use of facilities report for September 2016 through June 2017 as detailed in the Friday mailing.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Reed.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Dreska. Any questions or comments? No. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Veterans exemption. Board of Education approves the following resolution. Whereas New York Real Property Tax Law, Section 458-B, was amended to provide eligible Cold War veterans with a real property exemption from school taxes, similar to exemptions offered under other provisions of the real property tax law, so long as the school district in which the real property is located, after public hearing, adopts a resolution authorizing the exemption. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Baldwin School District hereby authorizes the application of the Cold War veteran tax exemption as contained in New York Real Property Tax Law, Section 458-B, as amended, in the amount of 10%, and such exemption shall be applicable to school taxes.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. O'Hagan.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Coles. We had a discussion earlier. All those in favor?
Aye.
Does anyone have anything under other? Nothing. Okay. See, I promised you we'd get to the second comment period quickly. Okay, comment period 2. Actually, let's do this before. Should I read these dates now?
Yeah,
I'm going to do the important dates before we get to the comment period. Lots of concerts coming up. Schools closed for holiday recess Monday, December 26th through Monday, January 2nd, so we reopen on the 3rd. Is that correct? All right. Our next Board of Education meeting is Wednesday, January 11th at 8 o'clock at Plaza. And that's it. So now I'm going to open up for comment period 2. There is no limitation on the subject matter that can be brought up during this comment period, although the same rules apply. It's a 30-minute timed period. Each person can speak once in total. 30 minutes in total. Each person can speak for no more than 3 minutes. We don't, I didn't say this earlier, we do not discuss individual students or staff members in public forum. And with that, I will open the microphone. Yeah, if you have questions, if you want to step up to the microphone. And just give us your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Rowena Wojcik. I live on Derbyshire Road. I have 3 children. I'm here to talk, before I talk about my children, I'm here to talk about busing for All County. I have 3 kids, 7th, 9th, and 12th, and they all made it to All County in their 3 different divisions. All County now is in Mineola, East Meadow, and Syosset. It is not humanly possible for my husband and I to drive them to all their rehearsals and concerts. It's even harder to find other parents to carpool with because they're in different divisions. And one day there's a rehearsal that overlaps with the concert, so that means I have to miss one of my kids' performances. So as you can see my dilemma, I would have to enlist a relative from Queens to help me. I don't think it's fair that the sports teams have busing all year, and Old County, which only occurs once a year, has no buses. No buses, and we still have to pay for registration fees. Old County is a wonderful experience for my children. They've been in it all the time, and they've made new friendships throughout all of Long Island. It's wonderful to see them all come together. We drive them to countless music lessons every week, and they practice for endless hours to perfect their instruments, to get that perfect NISMA score to even qualify for Old County. So when they do qualify and get accepted, it's the reward for the accumulation of all their hard work. How can I tell one of my kids they can't go to Old County because there's no transportation? It would break their heart. If you could only see them perform, the enjoyment of performing, and hear them perform professionally, meticulously, with other kids from not their school, you would see that these kids from Old County and All State are the creme de la creme of this district's music talent and skill. We need buses for this January, as well as going forward. I can't do it alone. And there are 51 students. You know, we owe them the support to continue to represent Baldwin proudly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wojcik. There are three, we're just trying to get information. There's 3 rehearsals, I think, for each performance. Right, so but for each student, there are 3 rehearsals and then their concert. Right, and it's the week before, and the concerts are Friday night.
So 3 rehearsals before.
Rehearsals and how many divisions? 8?
No, there's 5 divisions. Right? Yeah.
When, 5 divisions?
It's by grade, they group the grades.
Okay, that's
So
what you
Division
mean.
5 is grade 11 and 12.
And they're all in one location? Everyone's
No.
going?
No, that's the issue.
So there's basically 3 different buses going.
But if you would centralize a location where they should all be, all the buses be in one spot instead of going to different schools, that might help a lot.
And
Could we do something in conjunction with people, the Oceanside?
yeah, and just, I guess, for some additional background, I mean, there
I need
was.
just a little bit background because
Yeah.
I don't have kids in with this yet. So.
And, well, and we did provide buses for Old County, I think up until 2013 when that first budget failed. I think that was one of the victims.
For the rehearsals as well?
For the rehearsals, yes. And I remember distinctly because one of my kids was in it, we bused them from the middle school to Rockville Center, to the middle school, I think at Rockville Center, when it would have been easier for me to drive to Rockville Center Middle School than our middle school, just because I'm up north. But so I just sticks in my head that we provided that, the busing for the Old County.
Thank you.
So I don't know what,
We have to price it out. I mean, it's not in the
Yeah.
budget, so we have to price it out and see if it's something that's doable and see how many kids are involved.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And the idea of looking into working with other school districts,
Is that
is
feasible?
that a feasible?
I mean, we can look into it.
I mean, it doesn't mean it will,
You know.
people agree to it, but I'm just wondering.
Right, I mean, that's a matter of insurance and what their contracts are
Different
like,
layers,
and
right.
whether it's their buses or, I mean, it's not, it sounds like a simple question.
No,
It's
no,
not a
I know,
simple
that's why I'm
question.
asking.
Yeah.
Even if it was just for the high schoolers, we would still have to
Okay.
just the middle schoolers, and then we still have to have kids.
Okay.
I think it was the elementary school, we would still have a lot of parents.
All right. So that's something we can look into and get more information on? Okay. Thank you. Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Greetings to all. My name is Maria Broad, and I have been a Baldwin resident for more than 40 years. My children went to school here, elementary to senior graduation. And I'm pleased to be back to the board and to visit you now. But the reason that I'm here today is because myself and some people in the community, we are a little bit worried about the uncertainties of the future of our country and the children in our community. In terms of, we would like to know if you have a policy regarding hate crimes. In the district or different schools have a policy. If that is the case, if I may have it. And the second question is, if there has been any reports about or complaints. And the other issue is that I would like to bring to you, I don't know how to present it, but I think it will be very important to teach our children about human rights, to have human rights education. I don't know if it can be introduced in the curriculum. I don't know how it can be done. It's just an idea as a mother and as a grandmother and an old person in the community. I think it could be interesting. And so I think that's all I would like to know. I know there are 56 district Board of Education in Nassau County. I wonder if you have any connection in between, and if you have a policy that will maybe cover all these districts, and to be able to, or how do you deal if there are any problems of that involved? Thank you.
I'll just speak, thank you for the question. I'll speak on sort of policy, because one of the jobs of the board is to set and to pass policies. I don't know if we have one specific to hate speech. I know we do have a code of conduct. And we do, right, and there is, we have code of conduct, there's anti-bullying, there's in the policy, and there's DASA legislation, which addresses...
Explain what that is.
Well, I'm sorry, Dignity for All Students Act, thank you. That addresses bullying in the schools, not specific to hate crimes. And then I can't speak to whether or not we've had any incidents in the school, if you want to.
There's none that I know of that have been reported, and that's very good. And in terms of human rights education, we do teach that through our social studies curriculum, just it so happens that Mrs. Cadiz is here. Through a lot of our coursework, genocide, for example, is a topic that flows through multiple curriculum. We have talked to our staff about being sensitive, particularly in this climate, but to date, I have not had any complaints or reports of any kind of incidents of that nature.
Thank you. So how can I add this policy that you have?
You can give her the code of conduct book. And, yeah, you can give the...
If I go to the
If you, yeah, I think, do you have access to a computer?
Yes.
So our code of conduct is online, but we're certainly happy to, provide that to you. If you want to stop by 960 Hastings Street and come to my office, Mary, would you mind just putting that together? And I'm happy to get that to you.
I want to clarify, my children are 40 years old.
You said
Mine
4,
too.
right? 4 years old?
Mine too.
I was monitoring, you are on Facebook, and there was a conversation that I kind of saw a thread about this, and there were some people in the community who have similar concerns. And I guess there was some discussion about maybe doing something through the community coalition. Has anybody approached you with that?
Not about that.
Okay. Well, I mean, like along the same lines, given what's going on in the country and the things and the results of the election, whether you like them or not. But there are serious concerns regarding, what could be the possible outcome of this. And we have a very diverse community. And for the most part, I think we do a great job here. I mean, in terms of people getting along and respecting people's backgrounds and really not having many issues in that regard. And so you kind of want to make sure that we remain a community that is as harmonious as they possibly can be. So I know that it might be something coming down the pike from a couple of people like Sarah Hill from BCA and a couple other people were talking about it. So just
Joel, can I just?
Sure.
I just wanted to add something, maybe, Mrs. Judice, you can tell me if this still goes on, but years ago, we started inviting a group to the high school that would come and present different religious organizations. In other words, they would have tables in the commons, and people representing the religions of the world would come and they would have, let's say, symbols of their particular religious beliefs, and they would be there if students had questions about their religious beliefs. In no way proselytizing, but in an effort to show students all the different kinds of beliefs as they exist in the world. So is that still? I was just going to say, I thought so. We started it many years ago, and I just wasn't sure if we continued. But we've been trying throughout the years to bring this kind of experience to our students so that there's a sensitivity on many levels and in many subjects. And as Mrs. Reed said, I find an ongoing sensitivity to this, not just from the board, but from a broad number of people in the community. So we very much take your concerns to heart.
Okay. Mrs. Wilder.
Hi, Tricia Wilder, 655 St. Luke's Place. I just want to let the board know and compliment the principal at the high school. I attended her coffee talk this past weekend, and she had a guest speaker talking about the SAT and the ACT, and it was extremely helpful. I consider myself an expert on the elementary level, but this is my first experience with a child in high school, and it was just very informative to have that information. She also gave us a lot of information about the situation that happened at the high school, which I think was beneficial to the parents that were there so that we knew what was going on, and she also told us the consequences and explained what she was going to be doing with the students in the high school so things like that don't happen again. And I just think it was important for us to hear as parents that there was a situation and it was being handled effectively. And the other thing is, a lot of parents do bring up concerns at the high school PTA meeting, and one of them was the traffic situation at the high school in the circle. And it was suggested that cones be put out so that there aren't 2 lanes of traffic going at the same time. And I have to say, I was very impressed because I dropped my daughter off the next week and those cones were out there, and she's hearing what we're saying and getting the job done. So it's a nice situation to be in. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Wilder.
Well, I'm back. So I wanted to, I will just echo what Mrs. Wojcik was saying about the all-county busing. Throughout the meeting, what I did hear a lot of from all of you was how wonderful and how talented students were. I heard about how the students had performed for the real estate. I heard about the All-State concert, which I was there, which was unbelievably exciting. I hear about all the concerts. I heard about 2 out of the 3 teachers that were chosen to do professional development were music teachers from here, and one an art teacher. I did go to the community meeting, blown away, everything that's been going on in the high school. It's all wonderful things. I am not here to try to take anything away 51 students are going to All County from Baldwin. They need busing. I know we used to have it, and the budget used to cover the fees. I understand why they were cut in the beginning because of the hurricane and everything that was going on, the tax cap. Almost everything's been restored, but those buses have not been. And as Mrs. Wojcik said, these students work very hard, and just like the mock trial students who deserve to go to these competitions, these music students deserve to get busing because they worked for it. And it's the school that needs to support them now because that's the product of a public education, that everybody has an equal opportunity. So thank you for everything you do, because I know it's a lot of work. But these kids do a lot of work too, and they need your support with these things. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Batsford. All right, well, no other questions or comments from the floor? All right, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by the right side of the table.
Second.
No, the
Second
right
by
side.
Mrs. Coles. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.